Ever wake up in the middle of the night because your body senses danger before your mind does? Not a nightmare, not a sound, just a feeling so sharp that it slices through your sleep like a knife through skin. Imagine opening your eyes and realizing your room feels different. The air is colder, the silence is heavier, and somewhere outside your window, someone is whistling, slow, off key, patient. Tonight, you are going to hear three stories that crawled out of the darkest corner of fear itself. Stories whispered between tractors at empty gas station, passed around by night shift nurses, buried in police reports no one likes to discuss. So lock your doors, turn off the lights, and stay with me until the end, because these stories become much worse once the sun goes down. In October of 1998, a 24-year-old mechanic named Daniel Mercer was driving home through Black Hollow Road in northern Pennsylvania after finishing a late shift at a garage 30 miles away from town. The road had a reputation among locals, but Daniel never believed any of the stories. People claimed drivers would hear whistling in the woods even when no one was there. Others said hitchhikers appeared and disappeared within seconds. Daniel laughed at all of it. He was exhausted, covered in grease, and only wanted to get home. Around 1:13 in the morning, rain started hammering his windshield so hard he could barely see the yellow lines on the road. Then his headlights flashed across a figure standing beside the trees. An old man, thin as a corpse, wearing suspenders and holding a flashlight pointed directly at the ground. Daniel slowed down, mostly because the man looked injured. But when he rolled closer, the old man slowly lifted his head and smiled so wide it looked painful. Daniel later told police that the smile disturbed him more than anything else. The man's lips were stretched tight across his face, exposing gums that looked almost grey beneath the headlights. Daniel cracked the passenger window slightly and shouted, asking if the old man needed help. The man didn't answer. He simply began whistling a soft tune, slow, repeating the same four notes over and over again. Daniel felt his stomach tighten instantly. The old man took one step closer to the truck, still whistling, and Daniel noticed something horrifying. The flashlight in the old man's hand wasn't turned on. It had no batteries inside it. Yet somehow Daniel could still see the old man perfectly clear through the rain, as it light itself was following him. Daniel slammed the gas pedal and sped away, laughing nervously at himself for getting scared by some creepy stranger. But 2 minutes later, he glanced into his rear view mirror and saw the old man standing directly in the middle of the road behind him. That should have been impossible. Daniel had driven nearly 2 miles without stopping. Yet there the old man stood, motionless in the rain, whistling the exact same tune. Daniel's laughter vanished. He accelerated harder, 80 miles per hour, 90. His truck shook violently as tires sprayed water across the highway. Then the whistling started coming from inside the cab. Daniel froze. The sound was soft at first, barely audible over the rain, but it slowly became clear. Four notes, repeating, calm and patient. Daniel stretched the back seat, the floorboards under the dashboard. Nothing. Yet the whistling continued. He looked into the mirror again and almost crashed. The old man was now sitting in the truck bed behind the rear window, smiling through the storm. Daniel swayed so hard he nearly flipped the vehicle. He screamed, slammed on the brakes, and jumped out into the rain carrying a tire iron. But the truck bed was empty. No footprints, no water displacement, nothing except a single object lying near the tailgate. An old flashlight with no batteries inside. Daniel drove straight to service station. Disputes searched the road before sunrise but found no sign of anyone. Most assumed Daniel had hallucinated the encounters from exhaustion, but an older deputy named Frank Holloway pulled Daniel aside privately and asked him one question: did he whistle before or after he smiled? Daniel felt ice crawl up his spine because he had never mentioned the order of events. Deputy Holloway looked terrified. He explained that 20 years earlier his younger brother disappeared on Black Hollow Road after reporting a strange whistling man standing beside the trees. His brother's abandoned car was found days later, engine still running, driver's door open, radio blasting static. But there was one detail investigators never released publicly. Written across the fogged windshield from the inside were six words: "He followed me home last night." Over the next week, Daniel tried to convince himself it had all been stress and paranoia. But strange things began happening around his apartment every night at exactly 1:13 a.m. He heard faint whistling outside his bedroom window. His dog, Rusty, started growing at corners of empty rooms and refused to go near the back door after sunset. One night, Daniel woke up to discover middle muddy footprints leading from the kitchen into the hallway, thus stopping directly beside his bed. There were no prints leading back out. Daniel panicked and searched the apartment with a baseball bat, but no one was there. Then he noticed something sitting on his nightstand: the flashlight, the same one from Black Hollow Road. Dry despite the rainstorm, empty despite emitting a faint yellow glowing from inside the cracked lens. Daniel disappeared 4 days later. His apartment door was found unlocked. Rusty was discovered hiding beneath the kitchen table, trembling violently. Police found muddy footprints throughout the apartment, along with strange whistle-like audio interference recorded on Daniel's answering machine at exactly. Hospitals become terrifying after midnight. During the day, they are filled with conversations, footsteps, and noise. But at night, they transform into something else entirely: endless hallways, flickering fluorescent lights, empty wheelchairs parked against walls like abandoned bodies. And if you are ever worked a night shift in a hospital, you know there is one rule every nurse learns quickly: never answer a voice calling your name from an empty room, because sometimes the voice already knows exactly who you are. In 2007, 29-year-old nurse Rebecca Sloan started working the overnight shift at St. Mercy Hospital in Chicago. The building was ancient, originally constructed in the 1930s, and half the staff believed it was haunted. Rebecca didn't care about ghost stories. She had worked emergency care for years and considered herself impossible to scare. Her third week on the job, she was assigned to 7th floor, a mostly abandoned wing used for long-term psychiatric patients decades earlier. Most of the rooms were empty and locked except for a few storage areas. Around 2:40 a.m., Rebecca was updating patient charts when she heard someone whisper her name from the hallway. Rebecca, soft, weak, barely audible. She assumed an elderly patient needed help, so she stepped outside the nurse station. The hallway was empty. Then the voice came again: "Rebecca, please." This time it came from room 714. Room 714 wasn't supposed to be accessible. According to hospital policy, the room had been sealed shut years earlier after severe water damage. Rebecca walked towards the door anyway, uneasy but curious. The closer she got, the colder the halfway became. Her breath started fogging faintly in front of her face. She reached the room and noticed the door was slightly open. That alone made no sense because maintenance kept it chained from the outside. Rebecca pushed the door carefully and peered inside. Darkness, dust, old medical equipment draped in plastic sheets. Then she heard quiet sobbing from the far corner of the room. Rebecca called out, asking if someone was inside. No response. She stepped further in and noticed a woman sitting beside the window with her back turned. Long back hair hung over a hospital gown, stained dark around the shoulders. Rebecca approached slowly, believing a psychiatric patient had somehow wandered into the abandoned room. But something felt horribly wrong. The woman wasn't moving naturally. Her body twitched every few seconds like frames skipping in a broken film reels. Rebecca asked if she was injured. The woman stopped sobbing instantly. Silence swallowed the room. Then the woman spoke in a dry whisper without turning around. You shouldn't have answered me. Rebecca felt every hair on her body rise. Before she could react, the woman's neck twisted backward with a great cracking sound until her face pointed directly at Rebecca. Her eyes were completely black. Her mouth hung open unnaturally wide, and in a voice that sounded like dozens of people speaking together, she asked, do you hear them in the walls too? Rebecca stumbled backward and ran into the hallway, screaming for security. But when guards arrived seconds later, room 714 was empty. No woman, no footprints, nothing except a hospital bed pushed against the far wall. Security accused Rebecca of imagining things from stress. Humiliated and shaken, she returned to work trying desperately to rationalize what happened. Then she checked the patient records archived for the 7th floor. That's when she discovered room number 714 once belonged to a psychiatric patient named Eleanor Voss, admitted in 1968 after murdering her two children during what doctors described as a psychotic episode. According to records, Eleanor constantly complained about hearing voices inside the hospital walls whispering her name at night. Nurses reported that Eleanor would stand motionless facing corners for hours, speaking to unseen people. On November 14, 1971, staff found Eleanor dead in room number 714 with her jaw dislocated and her neck twisted so severely doctors struggled to explain how the injury occurred. After reading the file, Rebecca tried requesting a reassignment to another floor. Her supervisor refused due to staffing shortages. Over the next month, the experiences became worse. Call buttons from room 714 activated randomly despite the room having no electricity. Intercom system occasionally emitted distorted whispering repeating Rebecca's name. Patients complained about hearing crying through the vents at nights. One elderly man suffered a heart attack after screaming that a woman with black eyes was standing beside him, bed smiling at him. Then one morning near the end of her shift, Rebecca entered the staff restroom and froze. Written across the mirror in condensation were 7 words. They talk louder when you are alone. Rebecca began sleeping poorly. She constantly heard faint whispered while drifting off at home. Her cat hissed at empty hallway and refused to enter her bedroom. One night she awoke around 3 am after hearing someone softly crying inside her apartment bathroom. Terrified, she grabbed a kitchen knife and approached the closed door. The crying stopped the instant she touched the handle. Then a voice from the other side whispered, Rebecca, they are inside the walls. She backed away in horror and called police. Officers searched the apartment but found no one. Yet one officer had coming and heard whispering coming from inside the bathroom, went even after they confirmed the apartment above hers was vacant. 3 weeks later, Rebecca vanished during her overnight shift. Security footage showed her walking alone down the 7th floor hallways at exactly 2:40 am. The cameras captured her stopping outside room 714 as if she listening to someone speaking from inside. Then she slowly opened the door and stepped into darkness. Seconds later, every camera on the floor malfunctioned simultaneously. By the time security reached the rooms, Rebecca was gone. The only thing discovered inside was a patient chart lying on the floor. Across the front page, written repeatedly in black marker until the paper tore apart, were the words, "They won't stop whispering." Saint Mercy Hospital permanently sealed the 7th floor. 2 years later, after multiple employees resigned claiming they heard voices calling their names at night, and according to urban legends shared by former staff, if you stand outside room 714 after 2:40 am, you can still hear a nurse softly crying inside the walls.